Hey there, Elizabeth Hines here from the Autoimmune Free Cooking Club and our Paleo family. We're talking Thanksgiving this week. I am stepping you through some Thanksgiving classics, whether you're hosting or you're just bringing a dish. I'm showing you how you can have your cake and eat it too. You can enjoy the classic, delicious holiday foods in a way that is anti-inflammatory and either keep or help get your chronic health conditions under control. I hate it when the oven beeps right in the middle of my sentence. My timing is impeccable. So today we're making one of the recipes that has been exclusively in my holiday cookbook. It's called Your Paleo Holiday. You can download that for $10 from Amazon or Apple. But this is one of those special recipes that is in that book. It is German chocolate pecan pie. Because why have plain pecan pie when you can have German chocolate pecan pie? And it's amazing. If you take regular pecan pie that is full of corn syrup and sugar, and you replace it with maple syrup and honey, and you have this delicious almond flour pie crust, you have something that is out of this world. In fact, I planned to have leftovers for dinner tonight because I can't eat leftovers, and that way I'll have to just have pie for dinner. So don't y'all feel sorry for me, I just have to eat pie. So this pie crust recipe was, I developed it and developed it and developed it. My family is kind of famous for pie, and it is definitely a badge of honor to learn how to make a good homemade pie crust. And then when I had to start cooking paleo, that just changed everything. And pie crust was one of those things that really took me a long time to work out. So this recipe is in that book. And you have to either be a member of the Autoimmune Free Cooking Club or you gotta buy that cookbook to get this recipe, and it's really good. And as you can see, it rolls out nicely. Now, I didn't show you how to make it, but I am going to show you how I get it in the pie pan because it's a little bit tricky because there's no gluten in here. So I just wanted to show you how I do it. And this is the easiest way. So I rolled it out on a piece of parchment. Then I take my pie pan and invert it over my crust. And then we fit it down in. And it's going to crack and it's going to break apart and you're going to have to fit it together. But it's much better, in my opinion, than starting with that lump of dough in the middle of your pan and having to just press it out. Because this way, I have a pretty even thickness. And then I can go from there. So it's breaking apart because it's almond flour, and I don't put gums or anything like that in here. I should try it with the psyllium husk. I've been doing some gluten-free baking with the addition of psyllium husk because it's a fiber supplement, but it adds that sort of chewiness that you would get from the gluten in wheat flour. This might seem fussy to you, but trust me, this is the least fussy way to go. Just sort of fit this on, be gentle with it. So German chocolate pecan pie, you're gonna start with your crust and bake it for just a few minutes. And while the crust is baking, we're gonna also toast the pecans. You don't have to toast the pecans, but it really adds a lot of flavor, so why not? Why not toast them? So you would trim off the edges. This particular pan has that little handle, so you got to kind of work around that. Okay, and then we crimp. If I get to a place where I feel like it needs a little bit more kind of oomph, I just pat a little more on there and sort of thicken up that edge. Like right there is kind of a thin spot. Okay, so here's my crust ready to go in the oven. These little scraps, get out my bench scraper, and we'll make what we call pie doughs, which is just the leftover crust. Sometimes I roll it up and sometimes I just make it flat. Okay, so in the oven for 8 to 10 minutes. You don't want it to brown, you're just kind of getting it started. I'm just going to show you how to make these pie doughs real quick. So just kind of roll your crust back out, or you can pat it out. Okay, I need to start making my filling. So in my pan, I'm going to add a half a cup of honey and 3/4 of a cup of maple syrup. So that's a cup and a quarter of sweetener, and seriously, most pecan pies have way more than that, way more. Even paleo versions I've seen like 3 cups of maple syrup, and it's just way too sweet. So a half a cup of honey, 3/4 of a cup of maple syrup. And we're going to put it in this saucepan and just bring it up to a simmer. I want it to start to bubble. And when it does that, we'll take it off. I'm going to see if I can get these pie doughs made. Just show you this real quick. That just makes a yummy treat. I didn't put any more. Oh, here's my arrowroot right here. Sprinkle a little arrowroot on so it doesn't stick. You can put what you want on your pie doughs. We just do butter, cinnamon, and this is a monk fruit, golden monk fruit sweetener, which is like brown sugar. You could use coconut sugar. Oh, I forgot I have maple sugar. I'll just stick with what I have out. Maple sugar is really good. So you just, if your butter was melted or super soft, you could actually spread it around, but I'm just patting it around and that's fine too. This grass-fed butter is like, it has a texture to it. It's almost like a chewy texture. So just a little bit of sweetener. I like this, I'll tell you the brand of it in a second. Lacanato monk fruit. It's monk fruit and erythritol mixed together, and it's a good flavor, and it doesn't have that coolness that you get a lot of times from other erythritol sweeteners. And then just kind of roll it up. Get it started with your parchment, because again, you know, it's fragile dough. It's gonna fall apart. It's not gonna stay together just like a gluten-y crust would do. Oh, that's starting to go. I gotta hurry. And then just kind of pinch it together. Just help yourself there. Cut these into little pieces and bake them. So I want to get this in the oven, and then I'll work on what we got going right here. Let me give this a little stir, because it's heating up right there in the center, and I want it hot all the way through. Okay, so we're heating up our sugar mixture, and we're going to mix that with our beaten eggs. So I guess we better have beaten eggs, huh? So we're going to temper the eggs, you know, so we don't end up with scrambled eggs in our pie, because scrambled egg pie might be a thing somewhere, but it doesn't sound very delicious to me. So 5 large eggs. You do need to stir your pecans around after a couple minutes. This is really bubbling away, as you can see. It does not need to boil to that extent, but it's fine. It's fine. Okay, so I'm just going to beat up my eggs. Let me check my recipe here. Okay, so we removed this from the heat and we're going to add 6 tablespoons of butter, ghee. If you're doing dairy-free, I would recommend ghee. Coconut oil, palm shortening will work, but they just are not going to bring the right flavor. Ghee would have better flavor, but of course if you can use butter, use the butter. We're adding some cocoa powder. This one felt like there wasn't much in it, so I got out the second one. Just an unsweetened cocoa powder, a tablespoon and a half of that. A teaspoon and a half of vanilla, pure vanilla. This stuff is super expensive right now. And the salt, which is 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. I try to move things out of the way when I'm done, so I know what I'm done with. So we're going to blend these together. We want the butter to melt. Butter, maple syrup, honey, the cocoa powder, and salt. And then we're going to start tempering our eggs. So get this all melted. So I want, that butter is still melting, I'm not going to fight with it. I want about a cup of pecans for the top, and I like to lay out pretty whole ones on the top, and then I chop the ones that go inside the pie. So I'm going to sort through my toasted pecans here and pick out the pretty whole ones. These were really nice. These Costco pecans have been really nice this year. But this was the end. I had exactly 3 cups, which was what I needed. This might be a couple more than what I need. You never really totally know, but it'll be close. Okay, so a cup of pecans for the top, but I'm going to just empty them out because I need to use that to measure my coconut. And I'm going to chop these up. If you don't have one of these mini Cuisinarts, mini food processors, please, please, please get one. Ask for one for Christmas, your birthday, your anniversary, whatever. I use it all the time, all the time. I use them for so many things. They can double as a blender, make mayonnaise in there. Soup, smoothies. Just, you don't have to worry about getting it all evenly chopped up. Just some chopping. It's so funny. I ate a big breakfast at about 9, and I have not eaten since then. And I can tell, like I don't feel weak or tired or dizzy or anything, but I feel like almost spazzy, which isn't that funny? Okay, so I'm going to start tempering by adding a little bit of this hot mixture at a time. This is a 2 tablespoon measuring spoon. It's just what was out from measuring my maple syrup, I think, in the pie crust. We just want to add some until my eggs are no longer ice cold. I want them to be fairly warm. And then I'll mix them. I'll just mix the whole thing into this pan. This is the bigger one. That should be good. I got all these little hot pads. Okay, get rid of this one. And whisk and pour. If for some reason you didn't temper enough and your eggs curdle, you can just strain it. It's okay. But you saw that wasn't difficult. Just take a minute and slowly pour a little of the hot mixture into the eggs to bring them up closer to the sugar's temperature, and you can mix them together. You should notice that it's starting to get real thick and kind of syrupy. Blend that really well before you stop. to whisk. Just make sure your eggs have all been incorporated. Okay, so now I just need to add my coconut and pecans. And this is a flat whisk, so I can use it like a rubber spatula. So I'm going to add in my chopped pecans. And I need 1 cup of unsweetened coconut flakes. We'll stir this in. Just make sure it's all combined well. Grab my pie crust. So I baked this crust for 8 minutes, and you can just tell that it's just beginning to set. And then we're going to pour the filling in, put these whole pecans on top, and bake for an additional 20 to 30 minutes. It's kind of tricky. This kind of pie, honestly, is kind of tricky because it's going to still be jiggly in the middle when it's done. So I'll show you how to tell when it's done. Okay, so now you get, for those of you that are artsy, you get to tap into your artistic side and start with the biggest ones. Some are bigger and some are smaller, and save the smaller ones to go in the center. You don't have to do this. You can absolutely just chop all of them and add them all to the inside, you know, to the filling, stir them all up in there. But I just think this looks a little bit fancy, and therefore I like to do it this way. Maybe one more long one. Oh good, I'll put that guy right in the center. And then we'll not use those little broken ones. See how pretty? Okay, back in the 350 for about 20 minutes. And that's it. I'll clean up a little bit and I'll come back and I'll show it to you. I'll show it to you as I'm testing it to give you an indication of, you know, how to tell when it's done. Okay, so let me show you where we are. This is 20 minutes in. Can you see how it's jiggling from about this row in? So it's solid around the outside, but about 2/3 of it is still jiggly. I really want this center ring to be jiggly, not this far out. So I'm going to put this back in for about 5 more minutes. Okay, so I'm hoping you can see the difference here in that we went from big jiggle from this outer ring all the way through 5 more minutes, and we just have this slight jiggle from, it's really the center ring. It's a little more brown around the edge than I would love, but it's not burned. Remember, this is primarily made out of almonds, and it will just taste like toasted almonds. I think it'll taste great. You certainly, you know, some people don't eat the crust, or you can, they make these little rings out of aluminum that you just set down on top that supposedly helps to keep your crust from browning. I've never tried one. I have made a little, I don't know what you would call it, like a little thin covering of foil to go around when my crust was getting too brown. But it's such a hassle to mess with, and I knew it would be fine. It's fine. And I can't cut it right now. It would ooze all over the place. So we're gonna let it cool, and then I will show you how yummy that is. But I did want to show you my pie doughs. I already ate half of them because, you know, I told you I didn't have lunch. But they're just these cute little rolls of dough. I know there's like arugula, not arugula, but rugula. I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly. That's something similar to this. You can see the layers in there. It's just really delicious, and that way you're not wasting that delicious crust. It'll be a nice little treat because everybody's going to want your pie right now, and they're going to have to wait. We're going to have to wait and let it cool before we eat it. Okay, so the pie has cooled for just about 30 minutes, so it's still warm, but it is cool enough to cut and show you. The only downside of leaving the nuts on top whole like this is it does make it a little bit trickier to cut. This is a super large piece. It's a little warm still, but I want to show you, so I'm gonna force it out. Ooh, it has all of that yummy sort of gooiness of traditional pecan pie. Can you see? It has the extra yumminess of the chocolate and the coconut. And it's just it's German chocolate. So, you know, if you've ever had German chocolate cake, it's a real mild chocolate. So we just had that tablespoon and a half of cocoa powder, which gives it just that like hint of chocolatiness. I could eat that whole piece, but I'm not going to. I can really taste the honey in it. It's so good. And I meant to say this when I was making it. If you hate the taste of honey or maple syrup, you could use all of one and none of the other. But I really like it mixed. I don't love honey actually, but the little bit of that honey flavor is really delicious in this pie. So there you have a delicious Thanksgiving dessert. It was not complicated to make, but yet it seems kind of fancy and people will love it. And you don't need to explain, oh, this is gluten-free and this is dairy-free. It's just delicious, you know. It's just delicious. German chocolate pecan pie, paleo style. Okay, see you next time with another Thanksgiving recipe.